Set against a backdrop that looks more like a location for a dark science fiction film, this is, in fact, a hub of craftsmanship, responsible for one of the key elements that makes the AUDI range so luxurious. It's here that the finest leather upholstery is produced to create those unmistakable AUDI interiors. Leather features appear in both the large-scale productions and the bespoke programs at AUDI Exclusive. And it doesn't matter whether it's in a serially produced model or an individually styled one, the leather must meet the absolute highest standards of quality. In the Austrian leather factory Boxmark, one of AUDI's leather-producing partners, it's possible to see an exemplary display of competence in the art of leather manufacturing. Leather is one of the first materials to be produced by mankind, making tanning one of the oldest cultural achievements. And even to this day, the long stretch from raw animal hide to exclusive leather begins in the tannery, because animal hide is a far cry from leather. The first stage is to stabilize the raw material using tanning agents. The raw hide itself is a natural product and therefore perishable. It decomposes. The tanning process causes the hide to be irreversibly stable. It is then decay and heat resistant. As a matter of practice, we abstain from the use of chrome as a tanning agent, even though tanning would be less expensive and more efficient. Instead, Boxmark relies on the use of vegetable and synthetic tanning agents, which are environmentally friendly. After this first step, the raw material is still not leather. The hide must first be gently dried, using a sort of oversized iron, and a special oven before it can even begin to be considered leather. Now the only thing missing is the last finishing, meaning the final coloration, the last polish, and the last alteration to make the leather handleable, as the customer would want it to be. When we color the hide, the last hue is applied using spray nozzles. Similar to an automotive paint job, the leather is coated in an extremely thin layer of paint in order to achieve an even coloration. In the last 4 weeks, we have probably applied 250 to 350 different colors, depending on the customer's demands. Before leaving the tannery, the leather must then pass numerous quality tests demanded by Boxmark. We test abrasion resistance, tensile strengths and tearing strength. This means that we check whether the leather will rip easily or not. Then, of course, we have tests concerning the dyes. That is to say, we have color and polish standards, so we test to see if the color matches the specifications. We also have a climate test. We perform these tests in our climate exposure cabinets, where the leather can be stressed at temperatures from -40 degrees centigrade to over 140 degrees. The humidity can be adjusted between 0 and 100%, which means we can simulate climates from Siberian cold to tropical, and check to see what happens to the leather in frequent climate change. So now it's robust, but still supple. It's color fast without rubbing off, but it's not yet upholstery for seats, steering wheels, or door interiors. In the Boxmark sewing facilities, the sheets of leather, which on average are 6 square meters in size, are stamped daily from approximately 170,000 single pieces into almost 1,400 different variants in a logistically highly complicated process. Before being cut with the water cutter, the leather skins are spread out on a table. Then the skins are recorded with a camera, producing a digital image. A colleague has a magnifying glass in her hand and labels every single natural marking, such as scarring and warts. Since every car part, armrest, driver's seat or passenger seat requires its own leather or stamped segments, each individual piece must be arranged in the computer so that an optimal yield of each skin is guaranteed. The water cutter produces a pressure of 2,500 bar. The water jet has a diameter of no more than 0.08 millimeters. The advantage of the water jet is particularly obvious in large-scale production. The water cutter allows for quick changes in cut. That's to say, when we want to change one of the models, different cross-section, different flow. It can be done with mechanical stamping. The water cutter, however, is controlled via CAD, and the cross-section can be produced within half an hour. This means that an alteration that comes in on a Friday afternoon can be delivered on Monday. The advantage in using classical stamps with punching knives is that quicker reactions are possible when producing smaller series, and they can be delivered after only half a day. After cutting, the next phase is a logistical feat. The orders for every single Audi model from the A3 to the R8 have to be neatly separated and prepared for further processing. The front seat on the left is composed of 50 different stamped pieces and 100 different individual pieces. So we need 150 pieces for the final production of one front left unit. And then there's the passenger seat. The rear seats, armrests, steering wheels, the list goes on. And for each model, there is smooth leather, embossed leather, perforated leather. A virtually inexhaustible number of individual pieces have to be considered with every order. During one shift, approximately 12,500 components are brought into the sewing facility. And the components that are ready to be processed end up here, where they are sewn together by hundreds of workers. Here at Boxmark, 500 seamstresses are employed and are divided into two different shifts. We produce 8 models, divided then into 85 variants. That makes a total of 1,400 different components, multiplied by the number of customer orders. We use 257 miles of thread in our sewing daily. That makes about 900 sets, which means in turn that about 900 vehicles can be delivered daily. Thanks to the intricate logistics, mass production is guaranteed in the sewing facilities as well. One of our most difficult seams is for the side impact airbag. The seam must burst under a certain amount of pressure to allow the airbag to open. For this seam, documentation is required. This means that we guarantee for a period of 15 years that the seam will break, because in the end, human lives depend on it. At Audi, leather is not just simple leather, more an art form. Our advancement through technology doesn't end with Quattro or TDI. It pervades throughout every single area of an Audi.